If you just started your natural hair journey, or maybe you've had natural hair for years, but you still feel like you don't really understand what you're doing, I want to talk to you today because I think we've made growing natural hair so much more complicated than it needs to be. There are so many products, so many routines, so many things people tell us we need to try. And because we all want long, healthy hair, it's very easy to start chasing the next thing that promises faster growth. And I completely understand that. We all want to see results as fast and as soon as possible. But I tell you, if I had to start my natural hair journey from scratch today, I would do these things very differently. I wouldn't start by looking for a miracle growth product. I would start by learning my hair. The first thing I would do is stop chasing hair growth. And I know that sounds strange because the whole reason we are caring for our hair is because we want it to grow. But your hair is already growing. The problem for many of us isn't necessarily that our hair isn't growing, it's that we are not retaining the length we are growing. So instead of asking, what can I put on my scalp to make my hair grow faster? I'll start asking, why am I losing the length that I'm growing? And that shift in mindset changes everything. As long as you do not have a health issue, growth is happening at the scalp. Retention is what allows you to see that growth. But if your hair keeps breaking, it won't get any longer, so you won't be able to see the growth. Now, in order to minimize breakage, in order to retain more length, we need to stop over manipulating our hair because our hair is very delicate and fragile. So, the less you comb, the less you touch, the better. So, just tuck it away. Moisturize your hair and never leave it dry. Imagine a plant without water, it dies. So, your hair needs water to thrive. Moisturize your hair and also make sure that you detangle gently. Whenever you're detangling, be very gentle and patient with your hair. Use products with sleep. You can include flaxseed gel. Be very gentle because that is where breakage happens the most. Now, before you buy another product, spend some time actually observing your hair. How quickly does it dry? Does it tangle easily? How does it respond when you use a conditioner with a lot of sleep? Does your hair like heavier product or lighter product? How does it respond when you manipulate it frequently? Is your hair fine? Is it dense? How does it behave when it's wet compared to when it's dry? These things are much more useful than simply saying, I have fussy hair. And please don't build your entire routine because you saw someone on TikTok or YouTube with fussy hair doing something and her hair looks amazing. Then all of a sudden, you want to do it too. You can learn from her, you can be inspired by the person, but you still have to watch and observe your own hair. For example, maybe you see someone saying rice water is amazing. I used rice water and my hair grew in 1 hour. Okay, then you try it and all of a sudden your hair feels very dry, is breaking, is so hard, and you are now feeling like my hair is the problem. What is wrong with my hair? My hair never grows, my hair is impossible. That's not true. The thing is, rice water is not for you, and it's okay. What works for one person may not work for another. So that is why you have to observe, understand, and just stay with what works for you. Can I be honest with you? Simplicity is the key. If I were starting from scratch, this is the foundation I'll build. I don't need 12 different products. I need to be able to cleanse my scalp and my hair, condition it properly, moisturize it, style it in a way that doesn't cause unnecessary damage, and then I will just repeat the process. And as I learn more about my hair, I can always adjust. That is why hair growth is a journey. You learn, and then you adjust. Your routine doesn't have to look impressive or perfect, it just needs to work for your hair. Another thing I've personally incorporated into my routine is Ayurvedic herbs. And I actually fell in love with Ayurvedic herbs after I started learning more about them and using them consistently in my own hair care. One of the things I love about them is that they are not about looking for some magical overnight hair growth treatment like people claim online. Use this herb and your hair grows in 1 hour. No. For me, they've become part of my overall hair care routine. So for example, one of the things I use regularly is a hibiscus and rosemary tea spray. I use it on my hair before I moisturize it. If you noticed earlier in the video, that was the first thing I sprayed in my hair before I introduced the leave-in conditioner. I've personally noticed some really positive changes since incorporating Ayurvedic herbs consistently. My hair has felt thicker, I've experienced less excessive shedding, and I noticed my hair becoming darker when I was consistently using moringa. And I want to be very clear. I'm sharing my experience, not saying that these herbs are going to produce the exact same result for everyone. Your hair is your hair. What works beautifully for me might not work the same way for you. That's actually one of the biggest messages I want you to take from this video. Learn your own hair and pay attention to how it responds. I use hibiscus and rosemary as my tea spray, and I've also incorporated other herbs like fenugreek, black seed, brinraj into some of the oil and product that I use from MoistAura. So if you're interested in Ayurvedic herbs but don't necessarily enjoy preparing them for yourself, that's actually one of the reasons I wanted to incorporate them into MoistAura. I've done some of that work for you, but again, they are not magic. They are simply one part of a consistent hair care routine. Like I said before, learning to detangle your hair properly is very important. We need to be very gentle because sometimes we are blaming the product when the problem is not the product, it's actually how we are manipulating our hair. You need to learn to work in sections. You need to learn to use more sleep when detangling, and also take your time and be patient. Now, this is where you need to be picky about who touches or makes your hair, because some hairdressers have no idea what they are doing with type 4 hair. They are very rough and impatient with the hair, and they end up breaking and causing a lot of damage to our hair. For me, I don't use combs or brushes unless it is very necessary. I start with fingers and I try to detangle very gently, and that is what we need to do in order to retain more length. Remember this, our hair is beautiful, but it can be very fragile. So gentleness matters a lot. If I want to retain my length, I will need to pay more attention to the ends of my hair. Why? Because they are the oldest and the most fragile part of the hair, so they need the most pampering. So I should keep them in protective styles like braid, buns, and twists, making sure that it is low tension, avoiding tight hairstyles because those tight hairstyles will end up making you lose your hair. So you want to make sure that you avoid tight hairstyles because that's not protecting anything, it's rather causing damage. And the point of you protecting your hair in the first place is you keeping your ends tucked in. They are not just out and dry and in the harsh weather, keeping them tucked in. So it doesn't mean that you can wear your hair out. You can wear them out sometimes, but most of the time you want to keep them protected so they don't end up breaking because they are the oldest part of the hair. So keeping your hair in a protected style doesn't mean they should be hidden forever under a wig. No. It doesn't mean that it should be neglected permanently. No. Even in a protected style, you still need to continue with your wash routine. For instance, you have twists, you keep washing your hair until you take down the twist. So you don't just neglect your hair, You keep it clean, you keep it moisturized while in the protective style. Like I did in the video, you saw me moisturizing my cornrows. I washed it, I moisturized. So you should do the same. Don't neglect your hair. So keep up with your cleansing, moisturizing with your wash routine whilst it is in a protective style. Still on protection, you should always wear a silk or a satin bonnet before going to bed. If your bonnet does not hear word, it never stays on your head, then get a silk pillowcase. Sleeping on a cotton or a rough pillowcase will cause breakage to your hair, so make sure your hair is always protected and covered before you go to bed. I never documented my journey, didn't take pictures. I just started doing that recently. So don't be like me, document your journey. Take pictures, measure your hair. If you want to, pay attention to breakage, write down what product you are using, notice what your hair likes and what it doesn't like. Because sometimes the hair is actually growing, but we are just not noticing it because we are checking every 2 weeks. So give your hair time, give your hair month. Hair care requires a lot of patience, especially type 4 hair. It requires a lot of patience, and I know patience is probably the hardest thing to have. Let's be truthful. I know natural hair can be difficult sometimes. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's always easy because it is not. It takes time, it takes patience, and sometimes it takes learning things the hard way. But I don't believe natural hair is impossible to manage. That's one thing. I think sometimes we've overwhelmed ourselves with so much information that we've forgotten the basics. You don't need to become a natural hair expert overnight. You need a routine that you understand, products that work for your hair, just gentle practices and the patience to give it time. So if you are starting from scratch, just start from there. Understand your hair, keep it simple, stay consistent, and give yourself time.